Welcome to Live, Let Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Myka and Steve.
Hello.
And welcome back to another exciting episode
Of Live
Let
Thrive. What is up, Myka, man?
Man, what ain't up? Killing, man. Man, I've been quarantining in the house the last 3 days, man. I'm getting kind of sick of being in the house, man. So
Cabin fever.
Yeah, due to the COVID-19, they got everybody working from home, all that good stuff, man. But,
working from home sounds good on paper, but it's you need that change of scenery every now and then.
For real.
Thing is, you can't even go to a Starbucks now, so that sucks.
What episode we on?
I believe this is episode 119.
Episode 119.
Live, Let Thrive, your favorite Airbnb, VRBO, share economy, short-term, long-term rentals, real estate podcast, and we are here to cover the apocalypse as well.
Yeah, we have a special guest on. We have Alvin on, and he gives his tips and tricks on how he's surviving this madness. How you doing, Alvin?
Hey, Alvin.
Good. I'm well. Thank you.
All right. So what do we do to save our asses?
Well, besides total isolation and hiding, look, I think we've all sort of seen some of the same challenges over the last couple of days, and one of the things I thought was unique in having so many rentals across the country. I saw some trends that started to emerge immediately, where in some locales where we had folks that were booked for events and that were flying in, they were canceling at about 100% rate.
Ooh.
And on the other hand, you had guests that were traveling for leisure and driving. They were staying put. That happened for about 3 or 4 days. I think the earthquake came in when the CDC announced the 10-person or so limit. And then we started to see more restrictions on travel, more states implement restrictions, and then we started to see a lot more of those leisure stays start to die off. The only places that have sort of survived the rush have been places where we have traditional vacation hubs, the coast of Florida, St. Pete, Tampa, Panama City Beach. We've seen little impacts there, but by and large, folks are still coming to some of those prime destinations, and those that are out in areas like Summerville, South Carolina, that have wedding type events planned, private events. They've been staying. So we've had to creatively figure out ways in these other markets to fill gaps. So one of the unique things that I think we've done it before, but started to look at really is a local marketing pitch, just by creating flyers and then locally marketing them through Facebook and Instagram, specifically to host small events, understanding where the fears are and the numbers sort of lie. So targeting those numbers and populations of folks to host small events, particularly like sleepovers for kids, sleepovers for a girls' night out, and then small dinner parties, baby showers, things that can be manageable by folks. So we've seen some response in markets with some of the local marketing that's helped absorb some of the impacts from COVID on the markets.
So how many rentals? Oh, sorry, real quick. How many rentals do you have?
So right now there somewhere around 40 or so that are currently in inventory.
All across the country.
Right.
And that's all I was going to ask you. So you have 40 units, and where are your units all across? Are you only domestic or?
Yes, but from Washington State to Hawaii, down to the coast of Florida, up to New York City. and several places in between. So they're quite spread.
And are you buying or are you arbitraging?
It's all arbitrage, and that's part of the challenge here, right? And one of the things we do at your space, all of our rental agreements are at a minimum 36 months, and most go out to 5 years, which then allows us to bring investors in to a turnkey effort. So you can see where some of the risks that we take on, and then you have an effort or situation like this that comes up, and you're in a long-term lease agreement with almost no end in sight.
Question about those long-term lease agreements. So, okay, a pandemic, we probably didn't expect that, right? We were real. We didn't expect no pandemic. Right. But do you have anything in your leases to where you can cut them short, or is it just, hey, you got to ride out this 36 months?
No, so not in each lease agreement. They all vary, and some of it depends on the relationship with the owner. But the relationships are all there to where we've seen impacts in March, obviously going into April, to where I'm not at a point yet that I want to have that discussion with homeowners, but the relationships there, that if we need to shift tactics and forego rent and just make it up on the back end with increased prices, those should be pretty easy to facilitate. But one of the other things that's baked into these agreements are property management, right? And that's done specifically for times like this. So it gives me full-on control of the property to list it as a long-term rental, which I've done for at least 2 properties. They are up on Zillow as we speak to market as a long-term rental, just given the market that it's in and what we've seen. So
now that's super smart. And what has been your the interest in long-term rental, people wanting to rent long-term right now in this crazy time?
Well, with these right now, they're furnished and they're being offered up. So we haven't seen much activity, some interest. We'll see after the first week or so how this all plays out. But the secondary strategy then becomes to offer it unfurnished at a lower price, and then it'll sit on the market with every other rental that's on the market.
Now, just crap always comes to my head, as you know. But just me, as if I was in that situation to rent a house, knowing it's furnished and that it's I don't know if they know that it's been used before or whatever. I guess my biggest fear would be, wow, I mean, what if the furniture is all contaminated and stuff? I want to bring my own stuff. It would almost make sense as a landlord, as an owner, to rent it out unfurnished for the same price. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like there'd be more people paranoid about using someone else's furniture, bed, pillows, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I certainly agree with you there. I think for us, giving it some time to rent furnished to any takers is a given, because it'll save us cost on having to store it or sell it in that case. So if it doesn't work, then the exit plan is to store it or sell it and then relist it as an unfurnished rental.
It's a tough situation, man. And so you haven't had the hard conversations with the owners yet?
No, not yet. And I think part of this too is most of our places, they operate by and large in the sharing economy, and a lot of them have multiple streams of income, which has helped in some capacity. So whether it's other shared economy services, chef services, grocery services, mobile massage services, vehicle services through Turo, that are helping generate some additional income to absorb some of the impacts that we're seeing. It's allowed us to stay afloat in most of the markets.
So hold on, you're offering at each Airbnb rental, you're offering other share economy add-ons to each rental?
No, absolutely. And I think that's one of the more unique aspects of what we're doing here at your space is we look at this as we are operating Airbnb within the confines of the sharing economy. And all that simply means is that Airbnb becomes the center of gravity. However, all the other shared economy services that exist, we bring those services into Airbnb to enhance the guest experience, except in cases like PeerSpace, which is sort of a Airbnb for events. With PeerSpace, that allows us to do each property at a minimum. It's dually listed and set up to host not only guests, but also to host events through PeerSpace. So whether it's a small team engagement or baby shower or a photo shoot from a local photographer, they all serve in a dual, a multi-purpose capacity to bring services in from both those platforms.
Now, an idea, I know I just come up with crazy stuff, but that just crossed my mind is if you're having a lot of trouble rinsing them out, long term or short term, the way things are getting, did it even consider to promote it? Hey, this is a beautiful home to rent to self quarantine. Does that even cross your mind? Because you're not gonna, the parent, your family ain't gonna want you around if you think you got that stuff. Get the hell out of here. And where are you gonna go? To a hotel? They don't want you either. Go to a place where they can self quarantine. Hey, that'll buy you a month right there. I don't know.
It's happening in real time. So two cases. A couple of days ago, we rebranded one of the DC listings to COVID-19 free, and immediately it took hits from folks that were looking to self quarantine, or they had family members that had not been diagnosed, but they thought they may have needed to get away, and they responded to essentially to the ad with changing the listing title there. And
Nice.
And here in Washington State, I think it was either in Olympia or Lacey, just today took in a 3-month reservation for the same purpose, right? It was a travel nurse who was going to work in an environment in the area. As you know, it's been pretty hot in the Seattle area, but she did not want to potentially expose her mom and her kid. So they booked a place for 3 months just to isolate her from her mom and her kids while she was working.
Okay, so one, you're in Washington State?
We have several places there.
Oh,
in
is that
Olympia and Lacey area?
Oh, are you based out of there? Or?
No, I'm down in Columbus, Georgia.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, that's my home state, Washington State. So
Okay.
I had a couple of things. So when you said you were doing COVID-19 free and you start getting the hits, see, this is my thing about doing that, because I was thinking about that too, but then I was like, I don't know. So when you start getting the hits, how are you verifying that they're COVID-19? Because somebody might be like, oh man, I'm self-quarantining. I'm just trying to get a free spot. How are you?
Well, you can't, right? And this goes back to my guiding philosophy is like you've got to operate one as if you're doing 50, and you just don't have the capacity to chase down 50 people that want a COVID-free place, but they may have other intentions.
Okay.
Right. So you can disinfect the place after they're gone, and just operate business as normal. But go ahead.
All right. And then the flip side, after you host the COVID-19 quarantiners, how do you disclose that information to the next guest? Like, because I don't know if you just be like, yeah, man, the people just left, they had COVID-19 or they were quarantining. That could take a hit on the business. Like, hold up. So how is that working out for you?
Yeah, so unless I saw a positive test and they disclosed that to me, anything else at that point is just a rumor. So I won't be in a business of spreading rumors. So what I don't know, anyone else doesn't know.
No, Oh, sorry. Real quickly, when you say COVID-19 free place, does it mean that you're renting it out for free, or
No,
it just doesn't have COVID-19?
it doesn't have COVID-19.
Okay, so yeah, I don't see how. Yeah.
It's
So
clean. It's disinfected.
even if that person comes in, you don't care if they have it or not. It's gonna they're gonna pay money and they're gonna rent it for however many months, right?
Yeah, like I said, unless they show me a test, the conversation that's noted is there.
Man,
But in,
we laugh at this stuff, but like, I mean, if you go all the way back to the AIDS epidemic, people didn't want to rent places to someone that had AIDS. They didn't want to hire someone that had it. I mean, it was just like, it's kind of eerily similar to that. I mean, we're shutting down everything. That's crazy.
Man, AIDS, you got to do a little few extracurricular activities to pass that around.
Well, at the time we didn't know. We thought mosquitoes, a mosquito bit somebody and they bit you. We thought they'd sneeze on you. And it was serious. It was like that. Of course, now we know it ain't like that. But I mean, just like this COVID-19, they don't know what's passing it, what's spreading it. I mean, they kind of do, kind of don't. So it's just, yeah. I mean, that's nothing wrong with these questions.
But yeah, I'm just wondering, man, like how to, okay. So, and I noticed people are doing the whole, we COVID-19 free. And also, because I thought you were saying you rented it out to someone for free, saying they were, okay. So you're saying,
right, let me just clear something up too, right? So not in every market, we've done this. And you notice I said DC, and then in the Olympia area. So those markets are prime markets for travelers, whether it's travel nurses or just either local folks or travelers that are still coming in to conduct business. So you still have enough throughput not to scare people that are traveling anyway. But it won't happen in a small town like Enterprise, Alabama.
Yeah.
We would just scare everybody away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And so someone actually hit me up today about putting extra, saying you've cleaned and disinfected severe or expeditiously, or, you've done a deep clean on the place. Are you putting that in your listings as well to attract more travelers?
No, I think at this point, most folks that are booking within the last couple of days, they've asked the question, hey, with all the COVID stuff going around, is your place being cleaned with CDC approved chemicals? I've gotten that several times. So most folks, they're aware enough that they're taking the necessary precautions and asking the questions to ensure that the places are sanitary.
Hold on. So there's CDC approved chemicals?
Believe it or not, they are.
Wow. I need to look into those. I just thought some good old Lysol do the trick.
They got their own website, man. There's people, cleaning companies that are pivoting and doing COVID-19 cleanings, man.
There you go.
I'm going to have to look into that.
It's happening. Capitalism at its best, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, capitalism is how you cure problems, in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a buck to be made. There's some motivation, right? Government.
Like the guy who had 18 or what do you have? 100 and some odd bottles of hand sanitizer or something crazy like that.
Oh, see, and then he's getting in trouble for that, right? He's getting in trouble for reselling that they call it, what is it called? Gouging, price gouging.
See, no. It's so I got price gouged this past weekend, a couple weeks ago when I went to Houston. So, man, I bought a little bitty thing of hand sanitizer. Man, that costs $8. And the lady, the person selling it, she didn't know it was illegal because she just works there. You know what I mean?
That's within the realm.
She was like, no.
Gouging would have been like $20, I think.
No, that's price gouging. And she was like, it's usually, because she told Mahogany, it's usually $2.99. I'm like, dang, we're printing $7. And I'm like, but which it's still by legal standards, that's price gouging. So I'm like, but she didn't know no better, because Texas is hard on that. But I mean, I don't know how that.
No. Okay, play counter. We'll play the devil's advocate on this one. If you allowed the free market to take over, I mean, someone's going to find a way to drive a big old rig of 18-wheeler full of stuff to get to a dangerous spot because they know they're going to make a lot of money, right? And so that that invites ingenuity and problem solving. But no, it's but they call it price gouging, whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway.
just explain that to the law. That's all I'm saying. You about to take the chances.
The law, but if the law didn't exist, I'm just saying. People would find out. Oh, I can make money doing this. I'm gonna do this. I'll risk my own health, but I can make some good money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Do you want? You want to go into the backstory a little bit, because we just started off on the COVID stuff, and so I want to know your backstory, Alvin. How you got into short-term rentals, and how you built your business, and how successful the business was before all this.
Okay. Yeah. So started out in a couple of years ago. It's really just been a little bit over 2 years. This journey, but started out in New York City with real estate agent, a good friend who told me that she was doing Airbnb, and she asked if I wanted to get into an investment. She sent some numbers over. It all made sense to me. And about 48 hours later, I was wiring her a bunch of money to get set up in New York City. And one turned into three within 90 days, and then just started going south down DC, Charleston, Savannah, all down the East Coast, and then just started bringing in partners to these efforts, and then it just really built out from there. But one of the interesting aspects of all of this has been the ability to provide first-time investors with turnkey Airbnbs, and that's sort of derived out of taking the long-term lease agreements or really the 5-year lease agreements, and then offering investors a turnkey Airbnb for 3 of those 5 years with a 10 to 15% of each booking back into the company to essentially play co-host and manage, because that's our agreement between the company and the homeowners. So that's been a pretty unique turn into everything, and being able to get folks in and help realize some of what they've wanted to do in some capacity and just didn't have either the know-how or they had fear to cross the line of departure to get started. But just over about 50 or so investments, whether it's properties that we've taken on, consultation efforts, or investments that we've sourced for investors, or bringing investors into a turnkey effort in some capacity. In just under 2 years, across a lot of markets, has really brought in a wealth of knowledge and experience to what we've done. And as I talked about earlier, the look into the shared economy, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a look into the future with respect to Airbnb. And you see now Airbnb experiences that are popping up, and understanding all the services that exist in the sharing economy. The story I often tell that surrounds that is you've got a guest. You've got a home, and it's 6 a.m. and you've got a busy day out ahead of you. You're gonna find a local dog sitter through Rover to take the dog, and then you've got a neighbor coming over to look at some attic space in your house that you've advertised on neighbor.com. And then at 8 o'clock, you're taking in a reservation you made through PeerSpace, or you took on through PeerSpace, where you've got a local company come in and do a small team engagement. They've asked for catering. You set that up through Feastly or one of the chef providing sites. And you take that from 8 to 12. You get the place clean. 2 o'clock, you've got guests flying in from Paris. You send an Uber out to them. You pick them up, get them back to their Airbnb, where you've got a Turo vehicle waiting for them that they also book through you. And then that evening, you've got a private massage set up for them that you've ordered through Zillow. That will provide them with a couples massage before they get out into the evening. And location dependent, in this case, you're near the coast, so you book a private boat ride through Boat Setter for that couple. They're going to go out and spend the evening out on the water and come back to the house before relaxing for the night. And when you think about that, that's all doable, not only in a day, but in a home. So then, in theory, what you do is you take a home and you turn it into a multifunctional space that then it's operating in the confines of the sharing economy, and understanding all the resources that exist in the sharing economy. You're then leveraging the sharing economy to provide guests with a very unique experience. And then, in my opinion, then you get yourself out of price wars that eventually happen when markets saturate, because Airbnb, number one, becomes no different than Airbnb 999. They all have something to offer, but nothing unique to offer that gets them out of these price wars that we're starting to see in some of the larger markets. But that's where I think you enter into the sharing economy. And as we've done with some investors, even there in the Houston market, taking a look at their investments and where they sit in the market, doing some gap analysis, and then immediately just adding just something as simple as peer space to dual purpose their space has provided some income relief. It's created an additional stream of income, provided some income relief, and now we've changed the conversation from needing a 70% occupancy rate to a 40% occupancy rate, because we are taking on income from other sources that's contributing to their profit margins and helping grow their business as a whole.
What exactly is peer space?
So think of Airbnb, but for events. It is a peer-to-peer market share platform that allows you to list a home and host events from the home. So in our case, I'll give an example. The place in Somerville, you have a section or part of the house that's set up that can host small team engagements. It's got a meeting table, chairs, a whole 9 yards, and then you've got one of the rooms that's set up for photographers to come in and rent studio space for by the hour. But when you think about that dynamic, you then start to change the realm of the conversation in terms of what the property's intent, not uses for, but the type of income, outsized income it can bring in once you start bringing in a lot of those shared economy services into the home.
Man, you're a true share economist. This is deep.
It's like owning a whole hotel and spa, but you have zero staff. You outsource everything. It's beautiful.
Right.
So in all those extra services, how much of a percentage on top do you charge them, so then it makes it worth your while to even have those services?
It depends. So like the grocery service, if somebody's coming in, I left that out of the story there, but they order groceries and we fetch them through Instacart. We just do a small $5 upcharge on grabbing the groceries. But other things like Feastly, the chef's going to charge a percentage of the price, and then we get a small percentage for hosting and having everything on site for the chef that's providing the service.
What was this called? Feastly?
Feastly, Feastly.
Wow, man, I'm learning some more stuff about share economy. I never heard of Feastly. Okay. Okay.
I have a whole rundown of these on the show notes.
For real.
And okay, well, how is your because you said you turned it into like a turnkey experience, which is really cool. I haven't heard of that yet. And but how are your I guess your turnkey host handling all this?
Well, because because we're essentially co-managing, we've sort of taken lead in remarketing or reletting most of the places, and it's all market dependent. Some markets are doing better in terms of bringing in travel nurses or marketing to that demographic. Some are doing better with just local marketing efforts, and some, as I alluded to earlier, we've got a couple that we've relisted as furnished long-term rentals. So they're hanging in there.
No panicked phone calls yet from them.
Well, the emails and the messages have came in, and it's really just, hey, we're bleeding here. What are we going to do with respect to getting some income back into the properties, and not to just bleed them through. But another key point in all of this, and I've sort of discussed it in one form or another, but the importance, and I did a live Zoom call about 2 weeks ago on pricing, and I was trying to help hosts understand the importance of pricing. And then 2 weeks, you fast forward 2 weeks later, and we have COVID-19. And what that brought to bear was that entire discussion was all based on hosts understanding how to price for efficiency. Because one of the things that we've come to understand is that a pricing software and just looking on Airbnb to see where others are priced around you, or using AirDNA to get average market prices, all are forms of aggregated market data. And what happens is, yes, you're in the right neighborhood, then it gets you on the right street in some cases, but it never gets you to the right house, right? And that's because every host in every place has a different cost to operate their unit every day. So the theory behind that is there's no way possible that a pricing tool or software that gives you aggregated market data can help you understand what it costs to run your business. Then that means you can't be priced correctly if you're solely relying on aggregated market data. And that was sort of the crux of the pricing discussion, to help hosts understand, how do you figure out your monthly operational costs after your pass-through expenses are taken out, and then dividing that by 30 and getting your daily operating costs, which then, if you're using a pricing tool, becomes your minimum price. Meaning, if you are priced at that rate for 30 days, that's your break-even rate. That's your no crap minimum rate. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out your base rate, that becomes a business discussion, right? Because now you've got to have the conversation and say, hey, what's our targeted profit margins here? Is it 30%, 40%? And what's our target occupancy rate? And then once the math is done on that, that becomes your base rate. And then between those two numbers, now you can compare that to what the pricing software and AirDNA and Airbnb and everybody else around you, where they're priced at. But the point becomes, and this all drives towards a business discussion, but the point becomes, in a time like this, you know exactly where your price point is. So for every cancellation that you get, you should have dropped your rates down to your min rate. And depending upon when those cancellations were taken on, for instance, this whole thing came out about mid-March. So some people had some income coming in March, which means if they had a profit margin set, and let's just say they were at 30% profit margin leading up to the COVID thing, now all they had to do was price to defend and really keep the profits that they've gained by just dropping their prices to their min rate. So in theory, if they were booked out 15 days and then they priced at their min rate for the remainder of the month and got booked, then they protected the profits that they made prior to the 15th of the month. But that's why that becomes such an important part of what we do, and understanding pricing, but not only because you should understand your numbers, but from a business standpoint, right? We want to have the discussion with folks to say that if you're priced at $325 on the 4th of July, what does that mean from a profit margin standpoint? So let's just say in theory that $325, you're priced at a 225% profit margin, meaning you made $225 for that day. What does that mean from a business standpoint to the rest of your month, and allowing you to not only price lower, but shift your strategy? And let's just say you book out 15 days of that month, but you've got one day that you hit a 235% profit margin. Someone may look at your listing in a prime location and wonder why you're priced at $89 a night. And that's your min rate. But the reality of it is if you've attained, let's just say, somewhere in the middle of 235, 150 on your profit margins for the first 15 days, now you play defense, right? You want to protect your profit margins, and then the way you do that is you can price below market value to your min rate, protect your profits, and then you're driving on, right? So this becomes a pricing discussion much more than anything else, and that's why it's so important, for hosts to understand their numbers, so they can play defense and offense, and then the discussion that doesn't become about pricing; it becomes about profit margins, and then that then helps you from a business standpoint look at down the line. If your target profit margins are 40%, then what does that look like from an income standpoint 6 months down the line, and then a year down the line when you're looking to grow a business in a rental arbitrage model, right? You start having a different discussion versus somebody that just wants to have an Airbnb just to post on Facebook, right?
That's pretty fascinating, man. Because I never thought of it like that. When I was Airbnb, and I was just like, okay, hey, I got a big day. That's cool. I didn't adjust my prices to try to catch more days. I thought it was just a bonus. But you're looking at it all scientifically, right? And most people, 90% of all hosts out there will probably just put it on Price Labs or put it on Beyond Pricing and set it, forget it, right? That's it.
Right.
But you're talking about actively, playing offense and defense. Like when a football team goes up by like 30 points, they're going to start putting it into prevent defense a little bit, That's fascinating, man. I love that.
Yeah, and that's sort of the catch. And again, I'd come back all day to this COVID-19 thing, and as I told folks on multiple platforms, immediately drop your prices to your min rate, and then some of the responses were, well, what is my min rate, right? Is it what Price Labs gave me or Wheelhouse gave me, or is it what everybody else in Airbnb is pricing at? And that's just not the right answer.
Yeah.
Now what's the craziest part of it is I've never seen this. Of course, no one's ever seen this before. It immediately, COVID-19 erased all the holidays and it erased every single big event. It destroyed March Madness. Now, funny thing about March Madness is because I was listening to another business podcast, and this guy, he said his buddy owns like 150 bars in, I don't know, let's say Chicago. I forgot what city, but he said his income from March Madness is it makes up for 50% of his bar's revenue for the entire year. I was like, holy crap. That's how important March Madness is to bars. Because if you think about it, it's like a Super Bowl every day for a month. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's cheering on their teams, got their brackets and stuff. It's like March Madness was made up for 50% of his bar's revenue for the entire year, man. So this thing just wiped out everything. It's insane.
Ooh, imagine that.
Wow.
March Madness. Think about it. The NBA, man. Dang.
Okay. Where were you, and how did you feel? I mean, was that the biggest shock when you thought, we're in trouble, when you heard that the NBA was canceled?
Honestly, it was, because I had this discussion with one of my business partners, and I think we were all just sort of mellow with everything. And when the NBA canceled the season, it was almost like you saw the domino just fall, because they put pressure on every other major organization across the country to follow their lead. And again, they packed venues every night for 100 and some odd days out of a year, right? That was pretty huge. So we knew that the tides were going to turn once they canceled the rest of their season.
It was surreal. I remember because that night, I think we did a podcast, me and Myka, and we were with Jasper Rivers. You know Jasper from the Get Paid for Your Pad?
Right.
Okay, we did a podcast with him, and at the very end of the podcast, Myka announced that the NBA just canceled their season. We're like, oh, snap. And so we finished the podcast, and I went downstairs, hang out, and watched the end of a hockey game. And even the hockey game seemed so surreal, because the broadcasters were like, oh, the NBA just canceled their season. NHL's, saying that they're going to report on something after, tomorrow, and blah, blah, blah. They're still playing hockey out there. There's still fans filled up in the arena. And then right after the game, they just start asking the hockey players about, are y'all going to cancel the season? Do you know this? It's like, that was it. That was the last game to play. And then they canceled their season like the next day or the day after. And then like you said, just dominoes. And I was like, holy crap, this has never happened. And it's insane, man. And I just we ask hard hitting questions here, I guess. So and you set up your business like, okay, these long leases, and so you could do the turnkey thing. And so just a lot of stuff's going to come out of this, especially ways to protect your business. What steps did you do to protect your business? Did you, like, for example, did you put each lease under its own LLC, or is it all under one blanket thing under your company's name, or how? And so you can kind of get out, without very much damage done to you, or how does this work?
Yeah. So each lease, they're under your space, but we also have a subsidiary LLC that handles most of the management, some aspects of the consultation, and some other parts of the business. But for each investor that comes in, depending upon the year, they all go into a separate entity that gets set up specifically for them, and that has more to do with taxes than anything else. But what it does, at least from an investment standpoint, it creates several layers, more specifically for the investor, since they're 2 levels down in the investment. So if we do default on one of their investments, then there'll be little liability for our investors to take on.
Okay, so you set it up pretty good then. Okay.
So I guess my next question was, okay, that's how y'all did it before the COVID. What lessons have you learned? I know you're still in it. You're still in the fight. You're still battling. I hope to God this thing clears out in a few weeks and you're back to business as usual. But if it don't, and you got to make some tough decisions, what would you have learned from this, and how would you have set up your business differently?
I think from a marketing standpoint, it would be taking on only properties that we were surefire that they were able to operate holistically in a sharing economy. And an example would be, I'll come back to the property in Somerville. It's a 4-bedroom, 3,800 square foot home with a huge backyard, which means that property has the capacity to operate on just about every sharing economy platform that exists. And we host weddings and large dinner parties. So understanding that, and as I was alluding to the calendar and its minimal impacts in Somerville, is the strength of that home is its ability to operate in a sharing economy. And though we've had cancellations from Airbnb, we've still got some major events that are still on the calendar from folks that are getting married, and they're paying some big bucks to do that. So that would be the look for each property, to make sure that it had some capacity to operate in the sharing economy and the potential to host some type of unique event.
Okay. And as far as setting it up in a legal aspect, would you do anything different in that front?
No, because it's really not impact. And I think the biggest thing for us is protection of the investors when they come in. And, we want everything that could potentially happen to happen between your space and the owner or their entity, and not the investors.
That's cool. So you're like the opposite of Airbnb then, right?
You want to say that?
Airbnb don't care about us.
That's funny.
But that's cool, man. And okay, what about length of leases? Would you reconsider your real long leases?
No, because it does provide us with a unique opportunity to leverage, right, the length of a lease agreement to provide turnkey efforts, again, for 3 of the 5 years to investors, which then allows us to regain control of the property and either continue to Airbnb it, or we just start the process all over again and bring another investor into that investment. So I think with that structure being in place, it's provided us a unique opportunity to carve a niche in the market for turnkey efforts. And it's provided a source of additional income also in a way that we charge folks up front a set price to get into the investment, and then we keep 10 to 15% of the gross profits from every guest for the duration of that lease agreement. So the way I see it, right, you get a loan from the bank and they charge you 4%. I'm getting up to 15% for being a co-host and a property manager. So it sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
So, okay, so you're getting longer leases. So are you negotiating cheap, lower monthly payments with that lease?
Absolutely. So,
okay.
And so as I call it, right? So we leverage the terms of the deal, right, to get the terms and the timeline we want. So typically that conversation sounds like if we offer you a 3-year lease agreement, we're going to consider $25 or so off the lease agreement, reduce security deposit, and our standard, hey, we want at least 30 days from our verbal agreement before we take on the lease. If we go out to 5 years, then that goes anywhere from $25 to $100, depending upon the price range or what they're asking for, and no security deposit to go along with that. So 9 times out of 10, we get the terms we want, and the reason why is because in as simple as we see it, all homeowners have rental and tenant inefficiencies, and where you can help either a homeowner or investor stabilize their property or investment, it becomes a win-win for everybody. So homeowners will typically take lower rent, and they'll take a 30, in some cases 45-day delay to start the lease agreement to pick up a 5-year lease agreement on a property.
So also, and this is another thing I would say, which is good, since you're getting the 3 years, and this is definitely towards the fans when this comment, with you getting that below market rent, when times like this hit, it's not hitting you as hard because you already have it at a lower price rent. And like the people who just go grab these arbitrages and they're getting the market rent right there where the market is, man, it's a hard thing to, bounce back from. So. Yeah, man.
And I think part of that too becomes like these become relationships that we establish with homeowners, and in some cases it's a lengthy discussion because folks want to kind of know what you're doing and they want to ensure that the property is going to be taken care of. But it allows you to come back and have that adult conversation in times like this where you've been doing right by them. They've had no issues. They've been able to inspect the property. They're logged into the August smart lock. They're logged into the security system. They can see all the activity. Then you can have an adult discussion about taking on some of the impacts of a COVID-19 and the property's inability to produce income.
So going back to analogies, sports analogies, would you consider, if we're playing football here, would you consider that your team is down like 40-0 right now in the second quarter, third quarter, and no, you think you're closer to the score?
Yeah, and the reason why is, right, we'll keep coming back to the shared economy discussion and having the ability with properties to bring in more than one stream of income. And then in reality, you'll have some properties that do well enough to help support other efforts. And
now, so let's say would you consider yourself tied right now? Maybe 20-20 right now, 25-25. Are you a little bit behind?
Yeah, I'd say everybody's behind in some capacity.
Right.
We bled over 40 or so cancellations in the first 72 hours, so that wasn't pretty.
That's the story of everybody right now. Okay, that being said, you're behind, and now do you I'd like, do you follow soccer at all?
I do. I'm a sports fan, so
okay,
I can follow you.
You know how a lot of European championships, they do like the championship game, they do a 2-game aggregate of goals. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the first game will be at one of the stadiums of the teams, and let's say the game goes, it's 3-3. The second game, whoever wins that one's going to win. They just add up the goals from the 2 games. I know I'm meandering here, but this is what I'm trying to get at. Do you see this as like the first game, you're down 3-1 or something like that? Are you playing defense to just stop the bleeding so you can give yourself a chance for the second game? You know what I'm saying? So you can go to their stadium and hopefully get the 2 or 3 goals you need to pass them. And you're just playing defense mode right now.
I like that analogy. I have something to say about that too. Go ahead, though.
Right, and that's the pricing discussion, right? That's frontline defense is understanding pricing and understanding it enough to not only immediately drop to your min rate, but then in theory, in some cases, I will take below min rate to take a $50 loss versus take an occupancy at base rate and lose $500 for the rest of the month. So yes, defense, first line defense is pricing, and then second line defense is pivoting the marketing strategy for properties location dependent, whether it's local travel nurses or other short-term rental and shared economy service sites.
And to bring my analogy all the way back around, so there's no by saying that there's no offense looking to be played right now. Are you not actively searching for more rentals, even though it could be like some great deals to be had right now?
I just opened another one as COVID was taken, but this it was already in the works for a month or so. But we did a remote setup and it was finished last Sunday, to be exact. We took in the first guest on I think somewhere around Tuesday this week. So
nice. Yeah. And I'm asking these because for selfish reasons too, but because I had some things in the works too going on, and but like for our fans out there, our listeners, because they're wondering what the hell should we do right now? Play defense, go for these. Oh, this looks like a great deal. I can get this badass condo for like $1,100 a month, right there in downtown. But should they? That's like I guess the question is different for everybody. But what would you suggest? Play more defense right now and see how this pans out, or take some bombs down the field?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the financial position. And if they've got something to underwrite the risk, then I'd certainly say take it, because you're going to find opportunity in a market like this during a downturn. But for everybody else, I would certainly tell them, hey, steer clear of taking on any more risk right now, especially if you're in a market that you don't have an immediate outlet. Like there's not a major hospital or two that you're going to be guaranteed there's going to be an influx of travel nurses and medical professionals once the government enacts the next piece of legislation that's going to start flooding cities with medical professionals.
See, and that's why I like Steve's analogy. It was like, are you playing for this quarter, like, you know what I mean, or get that home field, or take one on their field. See, because I don't think, and then maybe you guys can chime in on this, I don't think we've felt the full brunt of this yet. I think we're going to really feel the brunt when all of this passes over. Because I was saying yesterday, I'm like, we're in the middle of a tornado. In the middle of a tornado, you get under the stairs and you hide, right? After the tornado passes, you come out and you see all the damage. I don't know if we're at the hardest point yet, because people are going to lose their jobs. Like, people are losing jobs right now. You might have to downsize. You're going to start getting them calls from your tenants. Hey, man, I lost my job. So how do y'all feel like? Do you feel like we felt the true brunt of what's going on with this COVID-19?
I look at this, and it's just based on my experience. It's all market dependent, right?
Okay.
I tell you that St. Pete, Tampa, Panama City, I worry, but I don't have a huge worry, right? They've withstood all of the immediate impacts of COVID-19, whereas in other markets, like in Enterprise and here in Columbus, the calendars have been completely wiped, right? So the strategies in each market will differentiate based on some of the immediate impacts, and with the bans in place, and in a market like Columbus, military graduations, families coming in 8 or 10, 12 deep, has been the backbone of this market, and they've canceled all of those. I don't have local travelers in this market. So what that means is that this is a market that has to pivot to a different demographic of traveler to survive and be successful, unlike other markets. So it's market dependent in my opinion, but strategies have to change.
Have you heard out there in the streets anything about the COVID-19 Airbnb scam going around from guests? You heard any of those rumors?
No.
About for example, someone will rent your place for like a day or two, and all of a sudden when they get there, announce, "Hey, I just found out I got COVID-19. I got to quarantine for 14 days, so I got to stay here. I can't pay you, but there you go." You heard of that? I've heard of that. I don't know if it's real, but I've heard that scam going around. What do you do if that actually happened? What do you do? You gonna go get him out yourself? No one's gonna want to touch that dude.
You got that strict cancellation policy. He about to pay you.
No, but if he's there and he's like, "I'm gonna just hold up here. Come get me if you want to take me out of here." What do you do in that situation?
Keep a gangsta on payroll. As my friend Carter said. I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, but go ahead, man. How would you handle that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think the first approach, obviously, get Airbnb involved, and then the local authorities to just get them abreast on what's going on. But honestly, at this point, I'd probably just let them stay for 14 days. And look, the way some of the calendars look, it may be vacant anyway, right? So,
damn.
So there may not be an impact, and again, it may be location dependent. If it was somewhere where I still had folks actively coming in, I'd probably go up there myself. But yeah, that's a tough one, right? And hopefully it's not happening. That'd be a sick game to pull off.
Well, there's a lot of sick people out there, man.
Yeah. One thing that I was afraid of when I'm on my end, and I'm afraid of, it's similar to that, but not really, is, okay, so Airbnb's giving away free cancellations. My whole thing with that was, the one thing that scared me was I do have a couple of long-term people coming in here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, are they allowing you to cancel after you've checked in? That's one thing I was like, hold on, I wanted to get the air cleared about, which I still haven't. Have you experienced that yet, or?
No, the closest I've had was actually today. A guy was supposed to check in. He was driving up from Miami. He was halfway in Ocala, Florida, and he called to cancel because he was driving up with his 92-year-old mother. I think the pastor of his son's wedding, which they were coming in town for, was diagnosed with the coronavirus. So mom's freaking out. He canceled, and Airbnb immediately called me to ask if I wanted to issue a full refund. So based on that, I think you would have final say in to issue based on a day of check-in or afterwards.
Now, do you, Alvin, whatchamacallit? You thought of utilizing something like, well, either telling the guest that, hey, would you like to rebook? I mean, would you like to, we can move you to like September, October, November. I don't know. Have you offered that to guests?
It depends on the reason that they booked. Some folks were booking specifically for events that were happening, and if they canceled based on that, then we just simply said, hey, think about us when they reschedule your event. For others that just canceled due to fears or concerns, we did offer in some cases to push their reservation later on into the year and at a discounted price, 10-15%, something like that.
Okay, and I heard this cool ass tip from our buddy, friend of the show, Jay Massey, and he said that he mentioned gift cards. Have you heard that tactic? Offer the guests, okay, I can't give you a full refund, but you know what? I'm gonna give you this gift card. At least that buys you time. I know they might cash it in the future, but hopefully everything's back to normal by then when they start cashing in these gift cards. Has that crossed your mind?
Well, not in this case, because anyone that cancels right now, they're gonna send you the standard COVID message that you guys have seen, and we have no choice. We are up against a wall.
I guess I meant if they hit you up first before they went to Airbnb and said, whatever. I don't know. Just ideas.
No, I honestly haven't. I've never employed or used gift cards in that manner, but we've offered them before to some guests. But that all depends upon how much money they spent.
Okay, yeah, I guess they said. I guess what Jay was saying, that there's websites that you could get gift cards, like I guess with your own logo on it or whatever, and you don't have to pay until they cash it in. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of delays the hit that you're going to take a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, what does the future hold for you and your business, man? I know it's hard to predict, but what do you got going on?
So short term, we started to pivot a lot towards our partner host program, and that program differs from what we see in a co-host. As we see a co-host help you manage partner hosts, we want to work with hosts to help them grow a business, and this gets back to that discussion that we had earlier about pricing and really the center of gravity, and it becomes we want to talk to folks that are interested in growing a business and consult, manage their property, and provide them not only with professional pricing tools, but also a unique tax perspective and look and helping them understand what their investment means from a tax perspective when you start to talk about the ability to write off 100% of your expenses for short-term rentals. And what does that mean when you take ordinary expenses and then understand how to tie them to the business, right? So it really becomes about growing a business with respect to that. So that's sort of near term, and then working on some course content, and we're gonna host, if things die up, a short-term rental. I don't typically like to use the word summit, but it's going to be a Charleston summer experience that we'll host at the property in Somerville, and it'll be a 3-day event that we move through downtown Charleston and the home and take guests through a number of workshops, all sort of centered on operating in the sharing economy as a whole, looking at all the different aspects and resources that exist from that property. then long term, really the goal is to get into some type of consultation with respect to sharing economy and starting to leverage some of the experience and tools that we've built to talk to folks.
I love how your business is set up, and if we're gonna keep going on sports analogies, I look at it like, okay, you're a hockey team, right? And you know when they get penalties, they take their guys off the ice, right? Put them in the penalty box. And so I see you as your team. 3 guys got freaking penalties. They're off the ice. You're defending the goal with 2 guys and a goalie. They got all 5 of their guys. You're just trying to keep that puck out of the goal. And you know in time your guys are going to come back on the ice and you're going to be back on the offensive. And so I like how it's going to play out for you, because I mean you're still learning. You're still trying to fine tune your business. And I think a lot of competitors are going to fall out of this thing, and you're going to be right there waiting, to score some goals, man. Lots of goals. So I think the future's going to be good for guys like you, guys like us that are sticking to it no matter what, thick and thin. All these hobbyist Airbnbers, they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone by the wayside. A lot of these gurus are going to go bankrupt. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I think you're playing some good, solid defense right now. You guys will be back on the ice soon, and you'll be back at full strength and ready to score some goals, man.
Yeah, certainly. What's funny about that? I had this discussion with one of my business partners about the impacts, and you can just you log on to any Facebook page that's centered around Airbnb, and the topic of the day is what's Airbnb is doing to us in terms of not compensating for cancellations, and you can just see the impacts it's starting to have, and what's going to come out of it, folks are going to lose confidence in Airbnb's ability to have their backs. But on the other side of it, to your point, what's going to happen is, and this has been happening, Airbnb has been looking to professionalize their brand. Mm-hmm. And that move, or rather what's happening now, will aid that, because you're going to inevitably have folks fall out the market that couldn't survive a 1 or 2 month no bookings, mm-hmm. or limited bookings, and then they'll fall out in those that have in some capacity built a professional infrastructure to their business. They're going to figure out ways how to survive, and then you'll see a more competitive marketplace surrounded by offering more professional services, and then let's get into the shared economy discussion, right? To bring it to another level. So you're absolutely right. I agree. I think it's gonna pass, but the impacts that it has on a lot of folks will be twofold. Again, one, they're gonna lose confidence and not want to come back, which is fine for us, right? And then two, the professionalization of Airbnb's marketplace, with them entering into the hospitality fold full on, they're going to take on a lot of the regulatory guidance and steps of the hospitality industry. And that's going to filter down to every host on the platform.
Yeah, man. And I was talking to Steve about it. I was like, man, that way of like normal hosting, man, it's about to die off in this situation. Like if you can't survive 1 or 2 months with low bookings, man, you were in the wrong business to begin with. But it just really checks people's balance sheet, puts people in check, and shows them. It will be some that are in that situation but bounce back harder. But I mean, it's a tough situation. But I think the strong are going to be. It's going to be more competitive after all this. The competition's about to be. You're going to be competing with the best,
Yeah, be like the Saints playing the Saints, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're a Saints fan, huh?
Speaking of sports analogies.
You're a Saints fan, huh?
Who that?
See?
Oh, man, you from New Orleans?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm not a Saints fan. I'm an LSU fan, though, but yeah.
That's where our homegirls Kim and Ann.
I'm listening.
Yeah. You said you spent time in Charleston, right?
Yeah, I've got a place there in Somerville, to be exact. And
okay.
Had another place in Charleston that closed up about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, you ever run into Bill Murray?
No.
He spends a lot of time there, right? As a baseball team there.
So I've heard.
Yeah. No, man, this is cool. It's funny because like when you start getting into the business talk and everything, I kind of like I forget a little bit about COVID-19, and I'm like, wow, we're just doing a regular business interview, and then it creeps back into the conversation. It's definitely a changed world, but I think what you're doing is so unique. I mean, you're gonna be successful. When this turns around, you're gonna be right there, poised to really, really do some big things.
Yeah, this was a good app, man. I'm loving it. Really hit me with all those share economy things you're using, man. You're more than an Airbnb, and that's what I tell people, man. Be more than an Airbnb host. Be a short-term rental business owner, and you definitely took it to the next level, man.
Yeah, you got to build your squad with the right players, right?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Build a team.
Except for Kevin Durant, he's got the COVID right now.
And the Saints coach does too, Sean Payton.
Yeah,
he's got. Oh my. Oh, man.
Yeah, he was diagnosed, so he's home with his puppy hanging out.
Oh well, man, it's crazy. It's craziness. It's all gonna wash away. Everything's gonna be okay, man. Everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. So, well, thanks for hopping on, Alvin, man. We you gave us a wealth of information. And where can folks find you? And hopefully, after this all clears, get a spot for for a turnkey place of their own Airbnb from you.
There you go. Yeah. So visit www.yourspacestr.com. You can also find YouTube, Instagram with the same handles, YourSpaceSTR. And on Facebook, we've got a Facebook group that's dedicated to investors. Not a lot of Airbnb day-to-day talk, but for investments only as turnkey efforts come open. The name of that Facebook group is called Creating Airbnb and Sharing Economy Investors. And again, it's strictly focused on bringing investments in and to the table for investors that are interested.
Now I thank you for that. And now I was telling Myka last week I gave up. I'm doing a social media detox. It just got too crazy on social media, man. It was just bad. I took it off my phone, took off Instagram, took off Facebook. This week I took off the news sites I had on my phone because I was just staring at the news all freaking day, getting depressed. And so, are there things you're doing right now to like not be so depressed over this crap?
No, well, I have a full-time job in the U.S. Army.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Most of my time is occupied between that and a family here with a wife and kids and everything that's going on. So there's enough distraction to limit my my time on TV or social media for that matter.
Man said I got shit to do. I can't really worry about all that.
Now that you mentioned you're in the Army, you can go ahead and tell us, off the record, are they going to start implementing martial law really soon, man? You can let us
know. No, we're not to that point yet.
Oh, yeah. Thank God. Well, thanks for hopping on, man. We appreciate it. Thank you for serving. Thank you for serving our country and all you do for us.
My honor.
Yeah, and we hope to connect with you soon. Maybe in a few months after all this passes, we'll reconnect, and you'll be kicking some ass, and we'll all be living it up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. And so, man, that was Alvin. He killed it. And be sure to follow Live Let Thrive on IG, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Appreciate the love. Thanks for being listeners. Drop us a review and drop a subscribe on YouTube. Yeah, man, that was a really good ep. Thank Alvin for coming on. Great show. We'll be back at it again with more COVID updates next week.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.